Chapter 1. I never imagined that I'd one day end up working with my ex-husband. After all, it was only 3 months ago that we finally ended our miserable, 3-year-long marriage. The day the news broke that the new general manager was arriving, the entire office buzzed with gossip. Finally, a young manager for once. Look at his photo, he's seriously good-looking. Huh? Zach from the next desk leaned over, staring at the employee profile photo of Santiago on my screen. The new GM is not even 30. Do you know if he's married? He was. Now he's divorced. What? I closed the page and replied calmly. But he has a girlfriend, might even be engaged, maybe already remarried. Zach gaped at me. How would you know that? I shook my head and smiled. Just a guess. He has that look. But that wasn't true. Everything I said was real. Because Santiago's ex-wife is me. Chapter 2. Santiago and I were practically the textbook example of how two lovers can become each other's worst regrets. We were alumni from the same teacher's university. He was a year ahead, my senior. Some people just shine no matter where they go. And Santiago was exactly that kind of person. You couldn't help but look at him. Truth is, I was the one who had a crush on him first. But there were so many girls who liked Santiago. I wasn't confident back then, I just admired him silently like an idol, never daring to confess. Of course, I was afraid of rejection, but even more, I was afraid we wouldn't even be friends afterward. Then came that summer break when we volunteered to teach in a mountain village. The living conditions weren't great. One night, it rained through the roof of my room. The teacher in charge moved me to an empty classroom to wait out the repairs. When I got there, someone was already inside. It was Santiago. I guess he had also been sent there to escape the rain. Maybe he was too exhausted. He'd fallen asleep slumped over a little desk. I quietly pulled out the chair beside him, watching his sleeping face. My heart thudded wildly. There were no lights on. Outside, the rain poured down. My courage surged, and a wild idea popped into my head. I slowly leaned closer to his face. Just as our noses were about to touch, thunder cracked outside, snapped back to reality by the thunder. I scolded myself for letting desire override my reason. I was about to sit upright when a strong hand pressed down on my head. Santiago slowly opened his eyes, looked at my panicked face, and said softly, "Olivia, what were you just trying to do?" I wasn't trying to do anything, I blurted out, face burning, struggling to free myself. But he didn't let go. His eyes curved with amusement. And the next second, he leaned in and kissed me. I froze, too stunned to resist. It was a very, very gentle kiss. "But I want to," he said. Chapter 3. And so, Santiago and I got together. He was a really good boyfriend. We dated for 3 years in college, and our plan was to stay in the same city after graduation and build a life there. But then, unexpectedly, he received an offer from a well-known company back in his hometown. He never really wanted to be a teacher. That job offer was everything he had dreamed of. After a lot of thought, he held my hand and asked me if I would go back home with him. Santiago's hometown was very far from mine. No high-speed trains connected the two, just a 20-hour train ride. My parents were strongly against the idea. My dad got so angry he argued with me several times. Over the phone, my mom pleaded with me, "Sweetheart, we don't want you to marry far away because we don't know anyone there. If you're treated badly, who's going to stand up for you? You won't even have a place to go." But back then, I was too in love with Santiago to listen to reason. I told my mom, Santiago would never hurt me. But in the end, the one who hurt me the most was him. Chapter 4. It was like I had been blinded by love. Even when my dad said, "If you marry him and move there, then don't come back to this house," I didn't hesitate. Right after graduation, I followed Santiago to his hometown. He came to pick me up from the train station. It was snowing that night. Wearing my thick winter coat, I ran into his arms, eyes red with tears, and told him I had arrived. His eyes were red too as he held my face and kissed me over and over. "Santiago," I whispered that night, curled up in his arms. "My parents are furious. My dad said if I leave, he'll cut ties with me. You're all I have left." He hugged me tightly. Then he said, "Olivia, let's get married. I'll take care of you for the rest of my life." Chapter 5. And so, Santiago and I got married. After the wedding, I started working as an English teacher at a primary school, while Santiago took his corporate job. At first, everything was sweet and full of joy. Like any newlywed couple, we cooked together, watched movies, and shared the chores. My dad was still mad at me and didn't even attend the wedding. I was heartbroken about it. But back then, I was so caught up in the bliss of marriage that I ignored a lot of things. I kept thinking, once we got a long holiday, we could visit my parents, and Santiago would talk to my dad and make things right. Surely then, Dad would forgive us. But Santiago got busier and busier. He wasn't just working overtime on weekdays, weekends and holidays too. I felt bad for him and told him not to push himself so hard. But he would wrap his arms around me and say he had to give it his all. I want to prove to your dad that you made the right choice. I'm going to give you a life everyone envies. Chapter 6. Santiago's career took off quickly. In just 2 years, he became a department manager. In those 2 years, he drank countless rounds of alcohol at work events. Every time he got drunk and threw up, I was there, taking care of him, cleaning up, worried sick. At the banquet celebrating his promotion to general manager, I met Miranda for the first time. She had long, wavy hair, flawless makeup, and walked over to Santiago with a glass of wine, swaying her hips, tilting her head as she congratulated him. Maybe it was some kind of woman's sixth sense, but something about her made me uncomfortable. When we got home, I asked Santiago who she was. Santiago was a bit drunk. He pulled me into a kiss and said, "Miranda? She works in my department." I wanted to ask more, but he had already fallen asleep. Chapter 7. But Miranda wasn't just a regular coworker. She quickly started invading my and Santiago's life. Late-night texts, unexpected phone calls, perfume lingering on his shirts. All of that soon became fuel for arguments between me and Santiago. I couldn't stand Miranda's blatant provocations anymore, and Santiago's overtime hours only got longer. Until one night, I waited until 11 p.m., and he still wasn't home. I took a taxi to his company, and right at the entrance, I saw her. Miranda was clinging to his arm, adjusting his collar. "Go home already," she said playfully, her tone flirtatious and sugary. "Otherwise, the psycho call storm will start again." Santiago gave her a helpless smile. "I'll head back after she falls asleep." That night, I couldn't hold back. I rushed forward, shoved Santiago aside, and slapped Miranda across the face. What did Santiago say that night? "Right," he said. "Olivia, you're acting like a crazy woman." Chapter 8. After that night, things between Santiago and me hit rock bottom. We didn't speak, not until half a month later, when Santiago placed divorce papers in front of me. I had never seen him look so indifferent. He told me he had real feelings for Miranda. He admitted it was wrong to cheat, but said that when love came, he just couldn't control himself. I stared at him, dazed. "Love?" I repeated his words, woodenly, feeling like my whole world had just shattered. "So what you have with her is love, and what about me?" He was silent for a long time. Then he only said one thing: "Let's get divorced." Chapter 9. I didn't agree to the divorce. I couldn't accept it. Later, Miranda came to my school. She said she wanted to talk. Only useless women try to tie a man down through marriage, she said, full of disdain. "What's the point in what you're doing?" She pulled up a surveillance video on her phone. "Miss Olivia," she sneered, "what would your students think if they saw you acting like a crazy jealous wife that night? What would the school think? Just divorce him already. Santiago is mine now. We've done everything. He only has eyes for me. Why keep making this hard on yourself? What's your reason for not signing the papers? Because he's rich and successful?" She gave me a mocking smile. "But you need to know your place. You're just an ordinary primary school teacher. A man like Santiago deserves someone like me. Your school has plenty of male teachers. Why not find some divorced guy and live a quiet life? Wouldn't that suit you better? You don't belong in Santiago's world anymore." That day, she said a lot. She even threatened me with the video of me slapping her, and I stayed silent the whole time. In the end, she got impatient and asked what I really wanted. I said just one thing: "If you're so capable, then make him divorce me." Chapter 10. After that, Santiago stopped coming home. I kept calling him, again and again. When he blocked me, I waited outside his company. I was like someone gone mad. There was only one thought in my head. If they won't let me live in peace, then no one gets peace. I wrote out my story, printed it on A4 paper, and pasted it all over the company building. I handed copies to everyone walking in or out. She wanted to expose me? Then I'd expose her first. She thought I was terrified of losing. But the truth was, I had nothing left to lose. The moment I broke with my family for Santiago, he became my whole world. But now, he didn't want me anymore. Chapter 11. Miranda underestimated how far I would go to hold on to this marriage. She called me a crazy woman. News of her and Santiago spread quickly through the company. To protect its reputation, the company fired her. The scandal also reached Santiago's parents. They were very traditional people, and when they found out, they were furious. They called both of us home, right in front of me. Santiago's father slapped him, while his mother threatened to hang herself if he dared to get a divorce. In the end, Santiago gave in. He broke things off with Miranda and returned to our family. That three-way war, we finally won it. That night, Santiago and I talked the whole night. We reminisced about the past. I flipped through our old photos with him, page by page. By the end, I was crying. Santiago cried too, with red eyes. He apologized and pulled me into his arms again. Olivia, I'm sorry. Let's start over. Tears streamed down my face as I reflected on all the reckless things I had done. That night, we fell asleep in each other's arms. He made an effort, and I responded. After that, we had about 2 months of peace. He stopped working late so often. We cooked together, watched movies, shared little daily stories, and even visited his parents regularly. We planned to visit my parents next month when he got time off. It really felt like everything was going back to how it used to be. Until that night, when he went to shower and left his phone on the table, screen flashing nonstop. I couldn't resist. I picked it up. The caller ID read M. As soon as I answered, the other person hung up. Curious, I checked and saw a stream of incoming messages. Santiago, will you come tomorrow? I miss you so much. I cried for hours holding the pillow you used. I really miss you. I don't want to sleep alone. Why can't we be together if we love each other? I've been thinking nonstop. I don't care if you never make it official. I just need you to stay with me. I really, really love you. I can't live without you. I'll take the job you found for me. I promise. I know your parents won't let you divorce her. It's okay. Let's take our time. We'll get through this together. Okay? Every line was full of emotion. Every word, true love. When Santiago came out of the shower, I was still sitting there, stunned, holding his phone. He snatched it from my hand, glanced at the screen, and said hurriedly, Olivia, you're still talking to her? I stood up, staring at him in disbelief. Not just talking, you helped her get a job? You slept with her too? Calm down. How could I calm down? Rage shattered any self-control I had left. I screamed, hysterical. How could you do this to me, Santiago? How could you? You said we'd start over. He let me scream and cry, his expression growing colder by the second. And then he said, Olivia, I told you, I'm not divorcing you. Miranda's still struggling to accept everything. I'll handle it. Slowly. These past weeks haven't been easy for me either. Then he added, stop pushing me, okay? Chapter 12. That night, I had something important I wanted to tell him. I was pregnant, but Miranda's calls and messages shattered that joy like a soap bubble and dragged Santiago and me back to square one. A week later, a student at school slipped while coming down the stairs and hit their head, bleeding badly. I happened to be nearby. Without thinking, I rushed over, scooped the child up, and ran straight to the school clinic. By afternoon, my lower abdomen began to ache, and then the bleeding started. I called Santiago over and over, but he didn't pick up. The pain was so intense I nearly fainted. A co-worker, panicking, rushed me to the hospital. The baby couldn't be saved. The doctor told me my pregnancy had already been unstable, and the embryo wasn't healthy to begin with. Honestly, she said, It might be a blessing it ended early. Lying on that cold hospital bed, I called Santiago again. The phone rang for a long time. No one answered. Chapter 13. Because it was a natural miscarriage. The doctor gave me some medication and sent me home. On the way back, I sat in the cab, miserable and aching, trying to distract myself. I opened my phone and started scrolling through short videos. Lately, a meme about Wang Baochuan picking wild herbs had gone viral. Everyone was posting comedic takes on it. The comment sections were flooded with jokes about how scary it is to be blinded by love. Even the lady driving the cab chimed in when she heard the audio from my phone. Girl, I just don't get that Wang Baochuan. It's not like men are in short supply. Sure, her parents had it bad. But even that poor mountain suffered. 18 years eating wild herbs, girl. She basically plucked the whole mountain bald. What did those herbs do to deserve that? She burst into laughter. I laughed too. That only encouraged her. She kept going, watching me in the rearview mirror. Seriously though, love can make people crazy. Huh? Are you crying? I hastily wiped my face. Tears pouring uncontrollably. I forced a smile. No, your jokes are just too funny. I laughed too hard. My tears are from laughing. Ha ha. There's tissue in the seat pocket. Grab one. Sweetie. I took one, turned my head, and happened to catch my reflection in the car window. Messy ponytail, a worn-out face, bitter eyes, red, swollen lids, a face covered in tears. Was this really me? Was this the same Olivia who once shone on stage, winning first place in a provincial dance competition? Was this still the girl who always faced the sun with boundless energy? Was this still the Olivia they once called a rising star, after she won first place in the National Teacher Skills Contest? And just like that, I suddenly understood why I didn't want the divorce. What I couldn't let go of, it wasn't Santiago anymore. It was everything I gave up for him. Just like Wang Baochuan, maybe she, too, couldn't let go. Not because of love, but because she had sacrificed too much. And once you've given up so much, it's hard to walk away. You need it to mean something. Luckily for me, it was only 6 years. Thank God, just 6 years. Chapter 14. When I got back to the neighborhood, I saw them from a distance, standing under the tree, wrapped in each other's arms. Miranda's eyes were red from crying. Santiago gently cupped her face. Full of affection, they kissed deeply, completely lost in each other, as if the world around them didn't exist. Even as I walked closer, they didn't notice me. Miranda kissed him through her sobs, whispering, "She's almost off work. I should go, right?" Santiago said nothing. He only kissed her again, even harder. I stood there quietly, my body aching, but inside, I felt unusually calm. No impulse to slap anyone, no tears, nothing. Oddly enough, I almost felt like I was the villainess in some romance novel, the bitter obstacle between the male and female leads. They were only struggling to love because I stood in the way. 6 years ago, Santiago looked up at me with sparkling eyes after I failed to sneak a kiss, pulled me close and said, "But I want to." 6 years later, he's holding another woman, comforting her tears while ignoring the woman who just lost his child. All this time, what exactly was I so reluctant to let go of? That unexpected kiss in the rain? The sweetness of a shared secret crush? The night I gave up everything to chase him through a snowstorm? The promise, "Olivia, I'll love you for the rest of my life." And now, all of those memories, splashed over with thick, ugly red paint, they can never be cleaned off. I tilted my head upward, no tears, and for the first time, I felt like I could breathe. Finally, I understood. Letting go, stopping love, sometimes, it only takes a moment. Chapter 15. That night, I told Santiago I wanted a divorce. He froze, tugged at his tie, and frowned impatiently. "Can you stop making a scene? You were the one who refused to divorce before, and now you're doing this?" He probably thought I was just looking for a fight again. I looked up at him and calmly asked, "You don't want a divorce?" He said nothing, fighting through the pain in my body. I continued, "Can you really stand to keep her in the shadows like that? Forever the mistress?" That line clearly struck a nerve. Fine, fine. Divorce? Great, works for me. But Olivia, he added, cold as ice. Don't regret it later. How could I regret this? I already had enough regrets to last a lifetime. What surprised me, though, was that I always thought Santiago wanted out more than I did. Yet days later, when I handed him the divorce agreement, he hesitated. He didn't sign. You really thought this through? He asked, tossing the pen down, clearly annoyed. I nodded. Our finances were simple. The house and car were his premarital assets. We had some joint savings, not much. I only asked for half. He had no reason to refuse, but it still took him 3 full days to sign. A month later, once everything was finalized, we went together to the Civil Affairs Bureau to officially file the divorce. Olivia, he said. When the moment came, his voice no longer sharp, just hesitant. Are you really sure? Once we sign, we won't be husband and wife anymore. Are you really sure? He asked again. I suddenly found him funny. He probably thought I was playing games, pretending to want a divorce as some roundabout strategy. A way to guilt trip him or sabotage his relationship with Miranda. That's why, when I finally agreed to the divorce, he looked anxious instead of relieved. But the truth was, I really didn't love him anymore. I truly wanted to leave, and I didn't want to stay a moment longer. Chapter 16. The day after we finalized the divorce, I left. That day, it snowed heavily. Santiago called. He actually said he wanted to take me to the station. No need, I replied. I only have one suitcase, the same one I brought 3 years ago. I can handle it myself. But he still came anyway. At the train station, I waited to board while he stood silently off to the side. His phone rang again and again, but he didn't answer. Eventually, he turned it off altogether. I figured, as the one who cheated. Maybe now that I'd agreed to divorce without drama, he felt some guilt. Maybe escorting me was his way of easing that guilt. When boarding started, I pulled my suitcase and walked toward the gate. Suddenly, he grabbed my wrist. I turned back. Let me know when you get home, he said softly. I shook my head and pulled my hand free. Santiago, we're divorced. From now on, let's pretend we never met. And then I walked away without looking back. Standing on the platform, surrounded by falling snow, it felt like everything had been reset. 3 years ago, I came here with nothing but love and reckless courage, dragging the same suitcase behind me. 3 years later, in the same station, I left behind pain and resentment, still alone. But this time, I'm never coming back. Chapter 17. I arrived home at 7 in the morning, but standing in front of the door, I suddenly hesitated. Back then, I ignored my parents' warnings and stubbornly did things my way. And now, after everything I'd been through, I had no one to blame but myself. With things ending like this, what right did I have to come back crying? What face did I have left to seek their comfort? Just then, the door opened. My mom, bundled in thick pajamas, probably on her way to take out the trash, froze when she saw me. Olivia? Mom, my voice trembled. Oh my goodness! Why didn't you tell us you were coming home? She cried as she quickly pulled me inside. Honey, come out here, Olivia's home, she shouted into the house. Why are you dressed so light? Your hands are freezing. How long have you been standing out there? Why didn't you knock? She scolded while taking the suitcase from me. Where's Santiago? Didn't he come with you? Right then, my dad came out of the bedroom. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Tears poured down my face. Dad. Mom, I got divorced. Chapter 18. I thought my parents would scold me the moment they heard about the divorce, but they didn't say a word of blame. After I told them everything, my mom just teared up. She trembled with anger, cursing Santiago for being a heartless bastard, and hugged me tight. My baby's home. That's what matters. Divorce was the right choice. That kind of jerk didn't deserve our Olivia in the first place. Listen to your mom. What's ahead will only get better. Okay? I buried my face in her arms and cried like a child. All the pain, all the loneliness I'd bottled up over the past 3 years, finally, it came pouring out. My dad sat silently nearby, not saying a word. Maybe he had already seen this coming when he tried so hard to stop me from leaving back then. That night, I went back to sleep in my childhood bedroom. Nothing had changed. The photos and award certificates were still pinned to the wall. My mom said she and my dad cleaned the room every day. Your dad talks tough, but he's soft inside, she said as she sat beside my bed. He was mad and said he'd cut ties with you. Sure, but he's been polishing your trophies like they're treasures. You take after him. You know? Both of you are stubborn and always follow your heart. That's why he was so afraid you'd get hurt. I nodded, tears welling up again. Get some sleep now, she said, brushing my forehead gently. I closed my eyes. She turned off the light and left the room. "Ah, you scared me," I heard her voice outside. "What are you doing standing here?" "She's asleep?" "Not yet, almost. She's been crying all day. Can't you put something on her eyes?" My dad's voice came through the door. "When she's asleep, roll a boiled egg over her eyelids. If not, they'll be sore tomorrow." I turned over in bed, and once again, the tears came. Chapter 19. That night, I had the best sleep I'd had in a long time. The next day, I cut off my waist-length hair, dyed it dark brown, and got a soft curl bob. The hairdresser gasped at how beautiful my hair was and asked if I wanted to sell it. I shook my head and told him to just throw it away. I used to keep it long because Santiago liked it. He always said I looked best with long, straight black hair and told me never to cut or dye it. But now, I just wanted to please myself. I wanted a fresh start. I majored in elementary English education, but after inquiring at a few local schools, I found out none of them had openings or plans to hire. Thankfully, a neighbor of mine was heading abroad, and her company urgently needed someone to handle English documentation. She recommended me. That's how I started working at this company. It was a private enterprise involved in foreign trade, with branches all across the country. I was placed in one of those branches. The atmosphere was great. My co-workers were friendly. The company regularly organized staff activities and even partnered with a local mountain school for charity efforts, exactly the kind of work I enjoyed and was good at. For 3 months, everything at work had been going really well, until the general manager suddenly fell ill and had to be hospitalized. He retired shortly after due to health issues, and the company brought in a new GM. I never imagined I would run into Santiago again so soon, and certainly not as the new general manager of my company. Chapter 20. If someone asked, "What does it feel like to run into your awful ex and have him become your boss?" I might be the most qualified person to answer right now, but those dramatic scenes, quitting in a blaze of glory or getting sweet revenge, only happen in novels. My parents are both retired now. I can't just quit and expect them to support me again. Besides teaching, I have no other professional experience. Finding another job would be tough and uncertain. For now, I need this job. Honestly, I was surprised Santiago came here, but I didn't feel much else. After all, in my position, I had basically zero interaction with the GM. This was a big company. It was rare to even catch a glimpse of him. So, I just kept going to work like normal. My mom, worried I'd get stuck in the pain of my failed marriage, had been busy setting me up on blind dates these past few months. To ease her mind, I went along with them. She cast the net pretty wide, so sometimes I'd run into some real characters. But from another angle, it added a bit of fun to life. One day during lunch, I was chatting with my coworker Rita in the cafeteria. She asked how the blind dates were going. I sighed and laughed. I met one yesterday, when he found out I used to be an English teacher. Guess what he asked me? What? He said he wants to apply for a part-time graduate program and asked if I could tutor him for free. Pfft. Rita couldn't help it and sprayed her drink. Just as a group of people walked past our table, one of them paused mid-step. Seriously, what kind of guy says that? Rita burst out laughing, then sighed. But really, even someone like you got divorced. I honestly don't get what your ex was thinking. What do men want these days? A literal goddess? I smiled and took a sip of soup. To each their own, I guess. I get it, Rita said with a click of her tongue. Once they've had plain rice, they start craving leftovers. She suddenly went silent. I looked at her, confused, until I noticed her standing up nervously. Good afternoon, sir, she said. I followed her gaze. Santiago. Our eyes met. He looked surprised, maybe even a little conflicted. I guess he hadn't expected to see me here either. Rita tugged at my sleeve. With so many people watching, I stood up too. "Hello, sir," I said. He hesitated for a second. The group with him started greeting him one after another, creating a sudden buzz. Some were clearly trying to score points in front of the new boss. I gently nudged Rita, and the two of us carried our trays to the other side of the room. Chapter 21. After that, I didn't run into Santiago at the office again. A few days later was the company's mid-year event. In addition to reports and awards, each department was required to prepare a performance. Our department had planned ahead and arranged for me and a male colleague, who also had dance experience, to perform a duet. Time was tight, and I hadn't danced in a long time. My partner was more skilled than I was, so he quickly decided we would adapt one of the routines I performed during a college competition into a partner piece. My mom didn't know Santiago was now the general manager of my company. When she heard I'd be dancing, she excitedly dug out my old competition costume. It was a shimmering blue dress. I tried it on, it still fit. "My daughter is so beautiful," my mom said with emotion, "like a fairy come to earth." The day of the performance, standing on stage, I actually felt really happy. After graduating and marrying Santiago, my life had just been about work, chores, and grocery lists. I'd barely danced since then, let alone stood under the spotlight. But that night, the dance flowed freely. My partner and I had great chemistry. It was pure joy. Afterward, we walked off stage chatting excitedly about how in sync we'd been. Then someone nearby called out, "General Manager." I turned around. Santiago was standing by the backstage entrance, looking in our direction. For some reason, he was alone and looked oddly isolated. There was something unreadable in his eyes, dark, shadowed, but I didn't care. I turned away and walked out through the other exit. Chapter 22. After the mid-year performance, I got a little attention around the office. Even some friendly ladies from other departments came over to ask if I had a boyfriend. I told them honestly that I was divorced. They were surprised, but one of them even clenched her fists and said she'd definitely help me find a good man. I smiled and thanked her. Around the same time, I received good news. A new experimental elementary school was opening in the city's development zone, and they had officially posted their job listings. A week later, our company organized another charity visit to the mountain school. I had joined the last one shortly after I started here, and since my coworkers knew I had teaching experience, they recommended me again. What I didn't expect was that Santiago would also show up. The children at the school still remembered me. "Miss Olivia," they called out one after another. I was thrilled. I handed out snacks, taught them some English, and led a game of catch the chickens, where I played the mother hen and one of the male coworkers was the eagle. We ran so much I was dripping with sweat. Just when I was about to collapse and grab some water, Santiago, who had been speaking with the principal, walked over. "Tired?" he asked the male coworker. "I'll take over for a bit." The guy was stunned and nodded stiffly. Santiago and I locked eyes. I turned my head away and said to a little girl behind me, "Want to be the mother hen?" Her eyes sparkled. "Yes. I'm going to get some water. I will leave the chicks in your care, okay? Keep them safe." I waved goodbye to the kids with a smile and walked toward the classroom. Chapter 23. The classroom was empty. I sat down, feeling a dull ache in my lower abdomen, counting the days. It made sense, it was around that time of the month, after the miscarriage. I barely rested before jumping into divorce paperwork with Santiago. I didn't take the traditional postpartum rest and ended up with lingering pain in my waist and abdomen. Recently I'd been dancing a lot, and the night before, I stayed up late preparing materials for the experimental school interview. Then I'd just run around playing with the kids. So the pain this time was worse. I didn't bring any painkillers and knew I couldn't hold out until the afternoon. I texted the male colleague who had played the eagle earlier and told him I wasn't feeling well. I asked if he could drive me back early. He was kind and came right away, driving me to a hospital in the city. As if one problem wasn't enough, the doctor also diagnosed me with acute enteritis. I needed treatment, with no choice. I called my mom and asked her to bring my medical records from the past few months to the hospital. My parents arrived quickly and busied themselves paying bills and getting prescriptions. I lay on the hospital bed, eyes closed, receiving fluids through the The infusion room was noisy. I didn't know how long had passed before I opened my eyes and saw someone standing at my bedside. It was Santiago. I started. Zach told me you were here. I was worried. So I came. Zach was the colleague who drove me here. That wasn't necessary, I said calmly. General manager. Santiago was holding a medical sheet. He looked pale, like he was the patient. Earlier, when you were sleeping, your file fell on the floor and scattered. I picked it up. He stepped closer, eyes red, clutching the paper tightly, his voice shaking. We had a child? The form was from last month. When I came to get medicine, it included a history of previous pregnancy loss. October 26th. He said hoarsely. That was the day you asked for a divorce. Was it because we lost the baby? His hands trembled. I reached out and took the paper from him. If it had been the old me, maybe I would have cried, drowning in grief and accusations, telling him everything about losing the child. But now, I had nothing left to say. No, I said, my heart as still as a quiet lake. It was because I stopped loving you, Santiago. I looked him in the eyes and repeated. It's because I don't love you anymore. Chapter 24. Just then, my parents walked in. When they saw Santiago, both of them froze. Santiago froze too. He opened his mouth and, unbelievably, said, Dad. Mom. My mom paused for a split second, then her emotions exploded. You bastard. What right do you have to call us Dad and Mom? Her tears fell instantly. We handed our daughter over to you. Whole and well, look what you did to her. Huh? And you've got the nerve to show your face here? She rushed at him, ready to hit. Get out! Get out right now! Hey, calm down. My dad grabbed her. Why are you stopping me? My mom turned, still furious. My dad shook his head at her. There are patients here. Go sit with Olivia. Then he turned to Santiago and said in a cold, deep voice, You, come with me. Chapter 25. Not long after my dad and Santiago stepped out, I heard shouting from the hallway. Something's happening. A fight. A fight. I panicked and quickly asked my mom to go check. She didn't return right away, but a family member from the next bed came in, buzzing with excitement. Oh wow. You wouldn't believe it. Just outside, an old man beat the crap out of a young guy. My heart skipped a beat. He must be pushing 60. The man went on, but he knocked that kid down so bad he couldn't even get up. The hospital nearly called the police, but the young guy said no need. As he continued dramatically, I pieced together what my father had said during the fight. You have no right to call us Dad and Mom. My daughter, she's been the light of my life since she was born. I never once let her suffer the tiniest bit. You think I raised such a wonderful girl so you could ruin her? From now on, every time I see you, I'll beat you again. Just then, my mom came back, supporting my dad. Why'd you get so worked up? She sighed, helping him sit. You're not young anymore, and you've got high blood pressure. What if you overexert yourself? He bullied my daughter. He's lucky I didn't kill him. My dad huffed. He walked over and sat beside my bed. Dad, I choked out, eyes red. He nodded and held my hand. After a long silence, he finally said, Sweetheart, you need to know, no matter what, your mom and I will always have your back. If you don't want that job, quit. We've got pensions, savings. Even if you never get married or work again, we'll take care of you. As long as we're here, you don't have to be afraid of anyone. I don't care who it is, even if it's the king of the world, I'll shield you from it. And that's when I finally broke down. I threw myself into my dad's arms and sobbed uncontrollably. He rarely spoke much, and he was always stubborn. We used to fight all the time when I was a rebellious teen. But in this whole world, he's the man who loves me most. Chapter 26. After I was discharged from the hospital, I rested at home for 2 weeks. Santiago came by twice. Of course, he didn't even make it past the front door. A few days later, the company union sent over a bunch of health supplements. I knew this was his doing. Maybe, too late. He was trying to make up for the child that never made it. The day before I returned to work, I received a text from an unknown number. Olivia, have you no shame? You're divorced and still clinging to your ex-husband? Followed by a string of vile insults. The number looked familiar. In the living room. My parents were calling me to come drink black chicken soup. I calmly deleted the message and blocked the number. The next day, I found out Miranda had come to our company. Turns out the GM is married. Rita whispered to me in the break room. His wife suddenly showed up last week, brought fruit to every department. She lowered her voice even more. Total marking territory energy. Word is, people from the admin office overheard them arguing in his office. She was yelling something like, "Why do you still care about her?" I also heard she was the one who broke up his previous marriage. Rita popped a sunflower seed. They worked at the same company. She was the mistress. The ex-wife stormed the company. Made a huge scene. The mistress got fired. It was that bad. But hey, she played her cards right. The ex tried everything to hold on. But the GM still got a divorce. Apparently. They only got married recently. And rumor has it he left his old company because everyone talked behind his back after the marriage. Then he just happened to land here after our GM got sick. She clicked her tongue. Men always fall for the toxic ones. I just smiled without saying anything. After work, I didn't go straight home. One of the ladies in the adjacent department had set me up on a blind date. The guy came to pick me up downstairs at the office. He was a university literature professor. His name was Dominic. But the moment I stepped into the parking lot, someone grabbed my arm. I turned around. It was Santiago, breathless. He looked at me with concern. "You're back at work? Are you feeling better?" I froze for a second, about to respond, when suddenly, a shrill female voice interrupted us. Then, my hand, still being held by Santiago, was yanked away hard. "Well, if it isn't Olivia." Miranda smiled sweetly as she clung to Santiago's arm. "Long time no see." Santiago's face stiffened. He clearly wasn't happy. "I heard you were sick." Her voice dripped with sarcasm. "What now? Your old tricks didn't work. So now you're playing the weak and pitiful ex-wife?" "Miranda," Santiago said sternly, "watch what you're saying. Olivia is an employee of this company now." "Employee?" Miranda burst out laughing. "How convenient. I was also your employee once, wasn't I? Out of all your staff. Only she gets to be fragile and dramatic. Have you forgotten all the dirty tricks she used to keep us apart? She's just trying to win your attention back." "Miranda," I cut her off coldly. "You better watch your mouth. Santiago and I are already divorced. Your lives have nothing to do with me, and I have no interest in seeing either of you. So do me a favor and stay out of my way." I stepped closer. "But if you insist on stirring things up, I won't hesitate to let everyone here know what the two of you did. You know I'm capable of that, don't you?" Miranda froze, stunned, like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her voice rose sharply. "Are you kidding me? I am Santiago's legal wife now. What right do you?" "Oh," I sneered, "when I was his legal wife. That didn't stop you from clinging to him, did it?" I stepped in again. "Weren't you the one who said, 'Only useless women try to keep a man with marriage'?" Miranda's face turned ghostly pale. "Excuse me," a gentle male voice spoke behind us. "Are you looking for Olivia?" I turned. "Dominic." Santiago's face changed instantly. "You must be Mr. Dominic?" I asked. He nodded. "Yes. Is everything okay? Do you need help?" I smiled. "No. It's fine. Let's go." Miranda looked like she still wanted to say something, but Santiago pulled her back. I didn't spare them another glance. I got in Dominic's car without looking back. Chapter 27. After the dramatic scene just now, I honestly didn't expect much from this blind date anymore. Even though Dominic was objectively a great guy, probably the best among my recent matches, after witnessing that mess earlier, I figured any man would be uncomfortable. Things like this really just depend on fate. Thinking that, I sincerely apologized. "Sorry you had to see all that." But he didn't seem to mind at all. He gave me a small smile. "When the matchmaker told me about your situation, I admit I was curious. Why would someone like you be divorced?" I even made a few silly guesses. But after seeing what just happened, it all makes sense now. A marriage like that, why wouldn't you leave? He said it so frankly, and with just enough humor, that the awkwardness melted away. To be honest, I don't think I'm really ready yet to open up to a new relationship. I admitted. Totally normal. He said, but still, you have to believe in life. There are good men out there. Like who? Du Fu. What? He chuckled. Also, Du Fei. I couldn't help but laugh. What kind of answer was that? The mood lightened. I teased him back. So what? All men with the surname Du are good guys now? He stopped the car and turned to me, eyes sparkling. Well, my last name's Du too. Chapter 28. As it turns out, having dinner with a literature professor is actually pretty fun. He could quote poems or stories at any moment, turning the most boring topics into something amusing. Over the next month, I kept hearing gossip in the company, mostly about Santiago and Miranda. What I heard most often: Miranda showing up every single day to pick Santiago up from work. She watches him like a hawk. Honestly, can't blame her. She clawed her way up from office mistress to legal wife. Now she has to defend her title. One time the GM just left the office with his secretary, and Miranda nearly murdered her with a look. That girl has a boyfriend, doesn't she? Total misunderstanding. Didn't matter, they still ended up in another fight. I listened quietly, and then I found it kind of funny. Back when I was desperately holding on to Santiago, when I still loved him and refused to divorce, those two stood united, so in love, so determined. They treated me like the only thing standing in the way of their true love. They fought through everything, defying ethics and morals just to be together. But now that I've finally let go, drained of love and stubbornness, they're right back where I once stood. Miranda, who used to radiate confidence and love, now looked desperate, even pathetic. I wonder, is this the life they wanted so badly? Chapter 29. For a few months, Santiago had been sending me health supplements, claiming they were from the company union. Eventually, this got back to Miranda. One evening, I was working late and happened to run into Santiago at the company entrance as I was leaving. He hesitated for a moment, but still walked over. Have you been doing okay lately? I was silent for a second, then said, you can tell the union to stop sending those supplements. It wasn't the union. He said, it was me. I just said that because I thought you wouldn't accept them otherwise. I sighed. Santiago, what's the point of this? I wanted to make up for it. If you really feel any guilt for me, or for that child, then please, just stop disturbing my life. He stood frozen in place. People are strange, aren't they? He was the one who fell in love with someone else. He was the one who pushed for divorce. And now, he can't stop trying to make amends with the ex-wife he cast aside. Suddenly, I heard the sharp click of high heels. I didn't need to look to know who it was. Olivia. Miranda sneered, storming over. Don't you have any shame? So you lost your baby, so what? That was ages ago. If you'd agreed to divorce earlier, you wouldn't have gotten pregnant in the first place. Now you're divorced, and still using the baby as an excuse to pull Santiago back in, trying to guilt him. Huh? Playing hard to get? You think we can't see through you? You're disgusting. She raised her hand, ready to slap me. I instinctively raised my arm to block, but someone else beat me to it. Stop. Dominic caught her wrist. Voice ice cold. Smack. I slapped Miranda across the face. She froze. So did Dominic. You hit me? She stared at me, clutching her cheek. You hit me? How dare you? No reason, I said calmly. Just felt like it. Not like it's the first time. All grace gone. Miranda lunged at me like a madwoman. Santiago immediately grabbed her and held her back. Why are you stopping me? She screamed, twisting. She hit me. Santiago, she's bullying me. Whose side are you on? I'm your wife. You let her hit me? I watched as Santiago dragged her away, flailing and hysterical. The way she looked now, so much more out of control than I ever was. I turned back to Dominic, wondering if I'd scared him with that slap. Sorry, I said. Seems like every time we meet, it's something embarrassing. But he just shook his head and quietly gave me a thumbs up. I think, he said, eyes shining, that was badass. Chapter 30. Word of what happened that night eventually spread. Colleagues began whispering behind my back. Even Rita came over to ask if I'd known the general manager before. I thought about it, but chose not to say anything. After all, it was all in the past. The days that followed were mostly quiet. When I received the official offer from the experimental elementary school, I submitted my resignation letter. Santiago called my office line almost immediately. For the first time, I went to his office. He was holding my resignation, head lowered as he said softly, "If this is because of Miranda, don't worry. She won't bother you again. You don't have to resign." I shook my head. "It's not about her. If it's because of me." He looked up. "Olivia, I've been thinking a lot lately about how badly I hurt you. I just want to make it up to you." I sighed. "Santiago, maybe I didn't explain myself clearly when we divorced." He froze. "It's okay. I'll say it now. Properly, once and for all. In our relationship, I was always the one who gave up everything. You never had to give up anything, so it's no surprise you didn't cherish it. And the things I gave up for you, you never knew. And you'll probably never understand. Have you ever thought about this? I married you and moved to a city where I didn't know a single soul. I came here for you. You were the only person I had to lean on. When you said forever, I believed you. I thought it meant something real. So when you broke that promise, I couldn't accept it. That's why I fought so hard to hold on. But to be with Miranda, you did everything you could to push me away. In this long, drawn-out tug-of-war between three people, I've long since burned out all the love and obsession I had for you. I still can't bring myself to bless you too. I don't need your guilt or your apology. I just hope we never see each other again. And I truly hope you both stop interfering with my life." When I finished, Santiago lowered his eyes and sat in silence for a long time. Finally, he looked up. His eyes were rimmed red, and he said quietly, "I understand." Chapter 31. After leaving the company, I started working at the experimental elementary school. I was back on the podium, doing the job I loved, and every day felt full and meaningful. Dominic and I continued seeing each other as friends. As we talked, we were surprised to discover that his father and mine had actually been colleagues for a while before retiring. Rita kept in touch from time to time. According to her, Santiago worked at the company for another 6 months after I left, then got transferred back to headquarters. The last time I saw Santiago and Miranda was in Hainan. During winter break, I planned to take my parents on vacation to Hainan. Coincidentally, Dominic and his parents went there every year, so we decided to go together, perfect for putting together a full mahjong table. But fate has its quirks. On the beach, while I was wearing a big straw hat and buying seashell accessories, I ran into Santiago and Miranda again. They seemed to be on vacation too, but neither of them looked very happy. "So why did you add her on WeChat?" Miranda snapped. Santiago sounded tired. "Miranda, don't be unreasonable, okay? I was trying to pay her. How else was I supposed to do it? You didn't even want to come on this trip, did you?" She was nearly in tears. "You're trying to ditch me, aren't you? Just like you ditched Olivia?" There was a long pause before Santiago spoke again. "Olivia wasn't like you. Not like me? What's that supposed to mean?" Miranda's voice turned shrill and hysterical. "Let me tell you something, Santiago, if you think you're gonna find some other woman and leave me, dream on." I didn't listen anymore. Dominic had come over to call me. "The 4 parents are hooked on coconut juice." He grinned. "They're calling for you. Not far away. Under the blue sky and white clouds." My mom, wearing big black sunglasses, was waving at me excitedly. "Olivia, your dad got you a big coconut. Come drink it." I smiled and waved back just as energetically. "Coming."